Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 8th of April, comes to you from London. And markets finished a little bit on a high note last week, but we've seen here in Asia and Europe this morning, we are seeing just a little bit of a sell-off on the stocks. The dollar index is down slightly, but still bullish on all three time frames. And looking at the Eurodollar, we see we're still bearish on all three time frames. So some weak economic data out from Germany last week confirming that, and we are seeing just dollar strength, euro weakness continuing. Against the yen, the dollar is selling off a little bit this morning, but still just holding its bullish trend. And if we are to see a deterioration in the dollar short term, we normally see it show up with the yen chart first. Sterling just still at this 130 level, short term bearish at the moment against the dollar. And so we are still seeing long term and short term we're bearish. And of course, the uncertainty around Brexit continues. And then we see sterling against the euro is weaker short term, against the Swiss franc also weaker short term. And if we look at Bitcoin, that's holding on to last week's gains, so quite significant really that we saw that big bounce up in price. Bullish on the short-term chart, bullish on the long-term chart. Interestingly, we saw this big move once we'd moved through on the medium-term cloud chart. So we are still in a long-term bear trend, but interesting that we're starting to see some short-term targets all starting to emerge. 7%, 8%, 11% upside targets, and 14 and 25% on the long-term point and figure charts. So highly speculative, but the fact that we're holding those gains is quite significant above the 5,000 level is probably psychologically important. The S&P 500 index edged up on Friday, up another 0.5%. So the recovery continuing well underway, and the Nasdaq also looking bullish still as well. The Dow was up slightly, but again continuing its bull run. The Russell 2000 also caught up a little bit on Friday. It has actually lagged the market a little bit, but actually now starting to look bullish. We've still got some work to do on the price to get above the long-term trend, but we are seeing here almost like an inverted head and shoulders on the Russell. So it does look like we could recover as well in line with the market. The futures this morning, the S&P futures down 0.17%. The Nasdaq E-mini is down 0.2%. So it does suggest the US market will open slightly lower. The UK market is flat this morning, down very, very slightly. We'll look at the stocks in a minute. The midcaps is up very slightly, so market is pretty flat. Germany down 1/3%. And the CAC Courant down only 0.13%. So Germany's the weak man in Europe at the moment. Looking at Asia, we see Japan down 1/3%, the Hang Seng up 1/3%, China down fairly small amount, 0.05%, but holding those gains still looking pretty strong, and the Sensex down slightly. So the market's not really doing much that's significant. And if we look at the Aussie market, also up 2/3%, so looking pretty bullish there still on the charts. Crude oil moved quite sharply on Friday, got to that $70 mark, which was our target. So we're now looking for new upside targets. Just looking at the 60-minute chart, we do have a target to 72.32, another 2.5% upside. Of course, this is the time of year we expect crude oil to behave strongly, so we are just seeing that as well. WTI up as well, up $63, so we're seeing that recovery there as well. US nat gas sitting at $2.68, not enough to take the chart bullish. Taking a look at the gold chart, we are bullish here, up 0.5% this morning, just nudging that $1,300 mark again. Do have an upside target here of 1309, which is counter trend at the moment. The big question is still, can we break and activate these upside targets and negate these downside ones? Looking at silver, also bullish on the short-term chart now, as you might expect. US 10-year yields sitting fairly steady at 2.5%. We are just coming back into slightly bearish territory there, and US bond, German bonds, the prices themselves weaker on those higher yields of late. This data coming to you from Thomson Reuters Icon, or if you're a private user, Metastock Zenith, the same system, really powerful. Here we are looking now at the stocks and this data coming to you from Yahoo Finance. Looking at the individual stocks, we saw Chevron in the Dow was up 1.3%. That was the best performer on Friday. Boeing's woes continued, though, down another 1% on Friday. They were the worst performer in the Dow. On the Nasdaq 100, Liberty Global continues to perform pretty well. It has been in a downtrend, but looking at that now we're seeing this recovery through the cloud, upside targets, not very spectacular targets, but the fact is Liberty Global is recovering there. Vodafone, their woes continued down a further 2.7% on Friday. Google also fell quite sharply on Friday, down 0.6%. Taking a look at the Aussie market this morning, we see here that Resolute Mining were up 7.7%, so that's quite a strong performance, breaking to new multi-month highs. Not quite enough yet to take the chart clearly bullish on the long-term chart, but it is looking better all the time, and we have got quite good upside targets there. Breville Group, they were up 4%, quite a big jump here, breaking to new highs and really running, so that's good news for Breville, outperforming the Dow by some 23% this year already, so that's quite significant. Domain Holdings Australia were down 7%. Platinum Asset Management were down 4%. That's also looking pretty bearish. China, we had a mixed picture. Quite a lot of stocks up. We had Alicon Cement Company. They were up 6%, breaking to new highs. So they're really beyond recovery. They are looking really bullish now as they break up there. China Southern Airlines were down 5.5%. But again, the chart's starting to look bullish. A lot of these Chinese charts now starting to look better. In India, we had oil and natural gas, that was the best performer, up 1.3% in the Nifty 50. Mahindra were up 1.3%, not enough to turn this chart bullish. If we take a look at the downside, we had Hindustan Petroleum. They were down 3.3%. The long-term chart's still bearish. Medium-term, we are trying to recover, but it looks like we're just starting to unwind some of that gain. Indiabulls Housing is one we see quite a lot of, still under recovery. They were down nearly 2% overnight, so not looking so strong. And we see the Indian market still actually open. We see the prices coming through here from Yahoo Finance. Taking a look at the UK market, the best performer in the top 100 is Centrica, although the chart is still dire, having made those multi-year lows. We're seeing quite a few resource stocks in there: Fresno, Everaz, Rio Tinto up 0.5%. On the downside, we've got Compass Group down a further 1.23%, but the chart actually looking relatively good on Compass. Taking a look at the 250, we've got Acacia Mining up nearly 5% this morning, so that's the strongest performer in the 250. On the downside, we've got Vivo Energy down 4.74%. A lot of choppy volatility there for them. Aston Martin down a further 4%. Life has not been good for them since their IPO, and making new lows there, so that's not great, and underperforming the Dow so far this year by 25%. Last of all, taking a look into European stocks, so we just ranked by the top. Engie in Paris, they're up nearly 1% this morning, so that's quite good. Looking at Enel Group, they're up 0.3%. So seeing energy stocks doing quite well. Iberdrola there as well, up 0.23%. And the stock looking amazing, having broken with all these upside targets. Total also looking pretty good. On the downside, we've got Banco Bilbao down 2.5%, Safran down 2%. So we are still seeing some pretty big downward moves in Europe. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.